Everyone, Connie Pretula, certified nutritional practitioner. I'm also known as the menopause navigator, and I'm trained in holistic nutrition. How is everybody doing today? I thought I would just do a quick check-in just to see how are you doing? How are you handling things? What are some of the projects that you're doing at home to keep you busy at this time? Are you getting out for walks and, of course, watching our physical distancing? I know, when I'm walking down the street and I see somebody coming in my direction, I typically, I'm zigzagging down the streets, it seems, crossing and giving people that physical distance. One of the things I'm really missing is hugs from my friends. And a friend of mine said to me, wow, just imagine how good those are going to feel when we can enjoy them again, when, physical distancing isn't going to be an issue anymore. Whatever our new normal is going to be, hopefully that new normal is going to include hugs and especially, like with close friends and family. I know, as I say, for me, that's one of the things I really miss. And you know what? Technology is great, and I've been able to connect with people via Zoom and Skype and FaceTime. But I do really miss those face-to-face conversations where you're in the same place and you're sitting down and maybe sharing food or sharing a beverage, and taking the time to just visit and not worry about things. So yeah, definitely very different times. So yeah, let me know, what are you doing? Are you doing hobbies? How are you keeping busy? How are you keeping sane through all of this? I know a lot of people have adopted or are fostering pets at this time as well too, which is a great thing to do. Hopefully, some of the people who end up fostering those pets will end up keeping them long term, which would be wonderful for the pets to have a forever home. And they're always great for us as well too, right? They keep us company and they give us such great love. So today, what am I going to talk about today? Today I've pretty much finished all of the supplementation that I want to cover, and I'm going to put a little caveat on that. There's supplementation such as vitamins and minerals. A lot of times we refer to supplementation just as vitamins, but they're not just vitamins. They're vitamins, they're minerals, they're oils. So there's different components to them. So the overall classification really should be supplementation. But when I'm talking about supplementation, I am talking mostly about vitamins and minerals and oils. But one of the things that I'm going to cover now that I've covered sort of the main part of supplementation is I'm going to cover off one of my favorite things is herbal medicine. And it was something that I studied at school and really, really enjoyed it, really loved it. And maybe part of that is because of my, agrarian background, growing up on the farm and many generations of farmers in both sides of my family. So maybe that's partially where it comes from. But I really just love, the way they work. I've found anytime that I've worked with herbs and herbal medicine that I've felt the effects, very quickly, and they can be used for very specific reasons. So after today's video, those are the things that I'm going to work on. But I want to continue to talk about, sort of finish up the vitamins and the minerals and the oils. And a few things that I want to talk about is not all supplements are created equal. And this is where label reading is really important. You want to take a look at, the things that are in the supplement. And the first one I'm going to talk about, and I'm going to talk about a number of things, but the first one I'm going to talk about is oils. So I've got a couple of examples here, and that's why I'm wearing my glasses today, because I wouldn't be able to read the labels without my glasses. So, here's 2 omega-3 oils, and I know these show up, I think, kind of backwards just because of the way that I'm filming the video. But this one is called, this one in this hand here is called a Super EFA liquid, okay? And it's an omega-3 oil. And the second one is just called an omega-3 oil. They're both liquids. Then I also have an omega-3 oil that is in a cap. For people who don't like tasting the oil, and these are flavored. This one has a strawberry flavor to it, and this one is a tangerine lime. So some people, even though they're flavored, some people just don't like the taste of the oils, and you're usually only taking, a teaspoon at max, maybe 2 teaspoons. So that's why some people prefer the caps, because they can just swallow them with water. Now the omega-3 caps generally are quite big, and actually what I'll do is I'll just show you. These ones are, that's a pretty big cap. I'd say that's almost almost an inch. So it is a pretty big cap to swallow. So if you have issues with swallowing big supplements, that's where you may want to consider, especially with the omegas, that you may want to consider a liquid. Now, the other thing that I want to talk about is when we look at this one, if we just looked at this front label, Super EFA, and this is a professional brand, you can't buy it over the counter. You have to buy it through either a naturopath, a certified nutritionist, or at a natural pharmacy. And again, typically they have it behind the counter, so you're dealing with somebody, they're going to ask more questions as to why you want a professional brand, okay? But if we looked at that Super EFA, that would make you believe that, wow, this one's a really good one. I'm going to get a whole lot more in this one, so maybe I should buy this one as compared to this one. This one's just called omega-3. Now, when I look at the labels, and I'm not going to look at the camera for a second, when I look at the labels, both of them are pretty equal. This one overall is 4.5 grams of fish oil. That's just sort of its general classification. So there's 4.5 grams of fish oil in here. And this one is basically the same. I think it might be, it's 4.5 as well. So it's 4.5 grams of fish oil as well too. Now, this other one, what it does give me is it tells me the omega-3 levels in it. So the omega-3 levels overall out of that fish oil are 1,500 milligrams or 1.5 grams. And the composition of that oil, of that omega-3 oil, is there's 750 milligrams of EPA, and there are 500 milligrams of DHA. Okay, so that's telling me that, and that's in 1 teaspoon. So those are pretty good levels overall. And Sealicious is a good brand that you can buy over the counter. And this one has some additional benefits to it as well too, with some of the other things that it's got included in it. Okay, so now let's go back to this other one. Again, very similar, 4.5 grams of fish oil. Now this one, it is telling me that the total omega-3s are 1,975 milligrams, so 1.5 or 1.9 grams, where this one was 1.5, okay? Now, the EPA level in this one is 950 milligrams, okay? The other one was 750. And the DHA is 725 milligrams, where this one was 500 milligrams. So, to look at it quick glance, equal amount of fish oil. But then what you really need to take a look at is the EPA and the DHA levels to make sure that you're getting good levels in them. The other thing that I wanted to talk about as well too with omega oils, really the best sources are small fish. So I think both of these are the same. They come from anchovy, mackerel, and sardine, And this one is, okay, this little one is just anchovy and sardine. And the reason that I say that you want small fish is because they are so small, they will not have as many toxins in them from the ocean, because they don't live that long. So they don't have time to take on a lot of the toxins that are in the ocean. Okay, so those are the things that you want to look for. Wild salmon is good, but one of the reasons I don't use wild salmon is because, we've had issues with our salmon stock, and it's just something that I don't want to utilize. I don't want to be using a product that may be having some sustainability issues. Now, let's go look at the cap for a second. So one cap here, total fish oil is 1,000 milligrams, so 1 gram. 1/4 of what 1 teaspoon of the oil is, okay? And the EPA is 400 milligrams and the DHA is 200 milligrams. So again, quite a bit lower and you know what? And I'm going to compare these two because these are two professional brands. These are ones that you can't get over the counter. So I think that's a little bit more fair of a comparison. So the EPA in the little bottle was 950 and the EPA in the cap is 400. The DHA in this one is 200 and the DHA in this other little cap is 725. Now, I mean, there's so much science around supplements and stuff, and that type of stuff. They do say that your EPA and DHA should be a 2-to-1 mixture. So the 400-200 technically would be an excellent mixture. Now, with all of the studies that they're doing, all of the research that they're doing constantly, they're now finding that probably higher DHA levels are better for us. DHA is so important for the brain. It's important for children, for their developing brains in utero and as they're growing. Anybody with any type of brain issue or history of brain issues like Alzheimer's, those types of things, that's where DHA levels being higher would be a positive. So, the science is constantly changing. It's not like we know something and we just leave it at that. So what's better? With this one, because I just like the flexibility of capsules, because if I'm traveling, I can take them with me. So I generally take the caps, and I don't always like the taste of the liquid. Just for me, that's just me. But I would have to take, 3 of these a day to get equivalent to what I'm getting in 1 teaspoon of this. So if you don't want to take a lot of supplements, a lot of caps, then that's where the liquid is the better option. So some of the other things that I wanted to talk about in supplementation. So the supplementation world, again, has its challenges like anything. Actually, I think I'm going to take my glasses off because they kind of drive me crazy. But in the supplementation world, it's just like anything else. There's good and bad. And as a certified nutritional practitioner and having access to the professional brands, those are the brands that I choose to work with. One, they have a lot of studies that they show the efficacy of their supplementation. The brands that I work with, they do a lot of testing to make sure that they're getting good quality materials. In fact, one of the companies that I work with, they sometimes will not have their supplementation available because they haven't been able to get good quality product. So some companies are very, very particular. Now, the other part of it is synthetics and naturals. What's better? Typically, you're going to see vitamin A and vitamin E, and I'm just looking down at my notes just so I don't forget. But vitamin A and vitamin E seem to be the most common that will be a synthetic, and the synthetics aren't going to be as well absorbed in our body. And in fact, vitamin A for pregnant women, that's something that you want to stay away from because Vitamin A is stored in our liver, so you do want to watch the amount that you're taking. Vitamin A is good to go on and go off, but you want to make sure that you are getting a natural source of vitamin A. And for pregnant women, vitamin A is something that should be avoided, again, because it does store itself in the liver, which could end up being toxic to the baby. Sometimes beta carotene can be synthetic as well too, but it's not quite as common. Now, absorbable forms, and I've referred to this a few times within my videos, is that with a time release capsule, they're not worth the money that you're paying for them, because they are actually the least absorbable form. It's everything that they have to do to make them time released. It just ends up basically going right through your body. So you're not getting the benefit like you should. The best form would be liquid. So when it comes to the omegas that I was just talking about, that's where the liquid form is definitely more absorbable. You can see that I'm getting higher levels in those as well too. Far more benefit, right? Depending on what I'm taking it for, and depending on convenience. I mean, if you're going away and, taking the omega caps for a couple of weeks, not going to be a big deal overall. Who would want a bottle of fish oil to break in their suitcase? Not me. Also methylated versions. You'll see methylated versions of things like vitamin B12. Vitamin B12 is very hard for our body to absorb. So the methylated version, which is a methylcobalamin, that's actually the best form of vitamin B12 to take, because it's going to be better absorbed by our body. And when you're taking B12, typically you'll also want to take a folate with it as well too, because B12 and folate work synergistically. And sometimes if you're taking B12, that can mask a folate issue. And if you're taking folate, that can mask a B12 issue. So you want to generally take those together, and taking methylated forms of both of those are going to be better absorbed by our body. Also, sometimes supplementation is bound to another molecule. So you'll see it bound sometimes to a sugar molecule or an amino acid. That's where you see things like, for example, magnesium. You'll see magnesium called various different things, and there are different sources of magnesium. But for example, a magnesium bisglycinate, it has actually been bound to an amino acid. So that makes it more absorbable in the body. You'll see, so anything that typically ends in an 8, other than sulfate. Sulfate is, a lot of times that is not a good form of a supplement. But if you see a fumarate, if you see a bisglycinate, as I mentioned, a chelate, those types of supplements are going to be better absorbed by our body. Oh yes, the other thing I wanted to talk about was the RDA. If you go to the Health Canada website, you'll see comments with respect to the recommended daily allowance, or RDA, of a supplement. If you read further, and if you go back onto the history as to why RDAs were developed, they were actually developed during the war, so that people were making sure that they were getting enough of the essential nutrients that they needed to get. And that was partially because of rations. They didn't have access to all of the foods all of the time. So that's where they came up with basically Canada's Food Rules is what it was originally called. Now it's Canada's Food Guide. But they also came up with the RDA and the recommended daily allowance. So that was to keep Canadians strong during those times. Now, the RDA, though, is based on healthy individuals. So the levels are very low when you look at them. So there's a lot of controversy between, as naturopathic doctors, as a certified nutritional practitioner, when we're suggesting doctors can recommend, I can suggest, higher levels of certain supplementation. Even I have guidelines. I can't get into therapeutic doses. I'm not allowed to do that. And I talked about that with vitamin C, that I'm not allowed to do intravenous vitamin C. But even with something like vitamin D, I see recommendations of, 10,000 units. That's actually the upper limit that I could go on vitamin D if I was making that suggestion to one of my clients. And again, I'm not saying that more is better, but the RDA is based on healthy individuals. It's not based on individuals that might have some type of a compromised system in some way. So that's where the higher levels can be better. So yeah, those are the things that you want to take into consideration, that the RDA might not be sufficient for you. As I always say in my previous videos, if you're going to make some changes, or if there is something that you want to start taking and you're on medications or you're on other supplements, talk to your doctor or talk to your pharmacist to get advice to make sure that there aren't going to be interactions. Because yes, there's even interactions between supplements and foods and all those types of things. So if you're taking them for very specific reasons, you want to make sure that you're going to be getting the full benefit out of them. Now, the other part of supplementation is something called excipients. And excipients are, they can be things that are used to bind the supplement together in the case of something that is, a solid supplement. They can be, in the case of a cap, what is used to actually make that gel cap or make the little cellulose cap. There's also things that they need to do within the factories to keep the supplements running properly and keep their production lines running properly, because the actual components of the supplement can gum up the machines and stop the production. So there are things that they need to do, and in some cases some of those are better than others. One of the things that I wanted to mention is, just because there's so many people out there with bowel issues and digestive issues, when you see a supplement that has something like a gargum or guargum, some people pronounce it, or a carrageenan or carrageenan, however you want to say it, be careful of those. Those can actually really affect the bowels. So you want to avoid those supplements that have those components in them. And in all honesty, I took a course last year, a continuing education course on supplementation. It was a 3-day intensive. We were going at it 8 hours a day. It's really difficult for me to share everything that I know about supplementation with you and things that you should and shouldn't look for. So if you've got questions, I'm more than happy to answer them for you. Either message me directly or post it in the comments. I will get back to you if there's something I need to research. Of course, I'd research it and get back to you on that as well too. So I hope that helped. And as I said, this is the end of the supplementation point or part of my video series, but I will be going into the herbal medicine part of how to improve your immune system. And there's some great medicinal herbs out there that can help you improve your immune system. And I'm sure that a lot of you have heard of them. So I'm going to talk about them. And again, I'm happy to answer questions. So have a great day, everybody. And do what you can to keep active. Do what you need to do to be sane. I actually dressed up today just so that I felt a little bit more businesslike and a little less casual, which felt really good. So yeah, take care and stay tuned for my next video. Bye-bye.